Hi, welcome along to DR Sports with the breaking news today that Gareth Southgate has stepped down as England manager following the 2-1 loss in the final of the Euros. Gareth Southgate has decided to call it a day. Me and Laurie are here to discuss it. Let me just give you his quotes. He says, as a proud Englishman, it has been an honour of my life to play for England and to manage England. It has been everything to me and I've given it my all. But it's time for a change and for a new chapter. Gareth Southgate, age 53, has stood down as England manager. And of course, England now will need to look for a new manager. Laurie, I know you've got some stats around it, and let's get some reactions around this.
Yeah, okay. Let's start with his stats. He was in the job 8 years, took over in 2016, following a short stint in the job from Sam Allardyce. So he's been in the job 8 years. During that time, he's played 102 games, won 61, drawn 24, lost 17. That's a win percentage of just shy of 60%, 59.8. During that time, England have scored 213 goals, conceded 78. As you alluded to, the final, the Euro final, he had another Euro final 3 years before that, which we lost. And then it's also been a World Cup quarter-final in there as well, a Nations League, and I think another World Cup semi-final against Croatia.
Yeah. Listen, when you look in the grand scheme of things, you have to say that, he's been good for England. You know what I mean? He came in, it was a real breath of fresh air. You just reminded me there, Sam Allardyce was in charge. Absolute disaster. Let's not forget what it was like before Gareth Southgate came in. It was awful at England. We were underachieving big time. And he started, he came in, breath of fresh air. He'd have previously worked with the under-21s, started bringing through some of those young players. We saw players like Saka and players like that starting to come through into the first team. And he's done well. You know what I mean? We didn't get to finals before he came along. I think there was one semi-final since we'd won it in 1966, which I think was in 1996.
Yeah, the Euros.
And he's got us to
he played in, by the way.
Yeah, and he's got us to two finals. He's, like you said, he's got us into semi-finals, quarter-finals of the World Cup, which he was very unlucky in when we lost on penalties, remember?
To France.
To France. I was at the game, very unlucky. Harry Kane missed the penalty, which could have won it for us. And then he's got to two finals. However, we've not won any of them. And I think, I was at the game at the weekend over there in Berlin. It was a disappointing end. At one time when we got one goal back, I was thinking, could this be it? But ultimately, it's a loss. And as well as we did in that tournament to get to the final, some of the football wasn't great. He was getting a lot of questions asked. And I always thought, going into that final, that if he wins it, and speaking to fans, down by the Brandenburg Gate and that before, fans were saying, if he wins it, he's the man for the World Cup, which is coming up in 2026 over there in the USA, Mexico and Canada. They're like, if he wins it, he stays. But if he loses, come on, he's had a good chance at it now. We'll have to switch it up. So it's not really a surprise that he stepped down. But what do you think?
You know what? On balance, I think that is the right decision. I think that decision is mutually beneficial, not just for him, but for the country and the FA. I mean, if we look at the pros, when he took over, like you said, it was a bit of a shambles of an organisation.
Absolute shambles.
And he improved the stability. He improved the harmony in the team. A lot of players have been on the record in the past of saying they didn't enjoy playing for England for whatever reasons. He seemed to get everybody under the same umbrella, pushing forward, improve the diversity of the team. You chat to a lot of people of colour, they said that since Southgate's come in, it's been noticeable that the whole look of England has changed, which is for the better. So yeah, he's done a lot of good things. And then obviously you mentioned the got to the finals of 2 Euros back to back. Didn't quite get over the line, but did well to get there because, as you said, prior to that, we'd not been getting to any finals. But that being said, there were cons. We've gone through the pros. There were cons. He was considered, and this is just me having my say, I do think he was a bit risk averse. He was a bit cautious. The playing style wasn't always the best. I would say that at times he's kind of, for want of a better word, lacked the courage to make those big decisions. We've seen it in this tournament, not dropping or not taking off Harry Kane when he could have done. Some of the in-game management, the lack of subs and the tactics. I don't think tactically he's the best. I think he lacks tactical dexterity. I don't think his tactics are fluid enough. So, it's been a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah,
but overall, I do think he's done well in the job.
Yeah, he's done well. He's done well. My thing was, I was at the final the other day and I was like, I'm watching the game and I'm looking at the players that we've got on the pitch and I'm like, why can't we play like Spain? I know years ago we used to talk about England and we used to go, well, we haven't got the technical players. We do now. Foden's technical. Saka's technical. Cole Palmer, Kobe Mainu. All of these guys are super technical players. We see these guys playing at the highest level for their clubs. So when I watched England the other night and we're going with these long balls from Pickford and so defensive and there was times in this tournament as well where we only started playing when we went a goal down. And all of a sudden, and I think that's where you talk about him not wanting to take risks.
Yeah,
it's almost like we're then panicked into now stepping up, and then we were relying too much on the quality players in your Bellinghams and people like that we had. And like you said, it's the big decisions that a lot of people were complaining about during the tournament. Why was Kane constantly playing? He obviously didn't seem on it, but he was starting every game. Why did we not utilise other players out on that left-hand side instead of trying to play Foden there and Bellingham there? And, if you win the final, listen, probably nobody would be really asking them questions and they would have been cool and it's just about getting over the line. But if you don't win it, which is what happened, then you're going to come under pressure. And I agree with you. I think what he's done here, he's done the right thing in stepping down. He said himself, now it's time for a change. He's been in charge for a long time. So I do feel that we have to give him a lot of credit for what he's done with England. Like Laurie said, naming out a lot of the achievements that he's had, whilst not winning anything, he's done a lot because it was an absolute shambles when he took over. But it is now the right time for the change. Big tournament coming up. Who's going to take it on to the next level? And this is the interesting thing now. Who will be the next England manager? That's going to be the interesting one. Let me just tell you some of the candidates that are out there. Eddie Howe, of course, Newcastle manager. He's been asked in the past, would you take the job if it was, offered to you? And he's more or less said yes. So Eddie Howe's a candidate for that job. And Eddie Howe plays good football. Played good football at Bournemouth.
I like Eddie Howe.
Played good football at Newcastle, Jurgen Klopp, who I called for after the second game of the tournament. He's been suggested. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp out of work. We've seen him over the years, brilliant football. But would English fans have a German in charge of England? I think if he's Jurgen Klopp, that would be acceptable.
He's kind of been assimilated into the English football culture, hasn't he? So
Mauricio Pochettino, formerly of Tottenham, formerly of Chelsea, out of work right now. Could this be a job for him? Plays good football, knows the players. Would probably be quite an exciting brand of football, but didn't have a great time of it at Chelsea. As that sort of, but
I think having an Argentinian, I don't know, I'm just speculating off the top of my head, might be a harder sell for a lot of English fans. Because given the history, between Argentina and England, I'm not
he's been over here for a while now, and would he want it, being an Argentinian? Graham Potter has been put forward as a candidate, of course, former Brighton manager, brilliant at Brighton, not so good though at Chelsea.
And he's out of work at the moment.
But out of work and available right now. Thomas Tuchel, another person that's out of work right now. Of course, vastly experienced, he's been at PSG, he's been at Chelsea, Bayern Munich, but didn't do well at Bayern and been accused sometimes as well about his style of football and things like that. Out of all those managers...
Also, I think with Tuchel as well, he's a kind of antithesis to someone like Gareth Southgate in that he's quite a spiky character.
Yeah, would the FA have that spiky character?
I'm not sure if that would...
I mean, looking at those candidates, who would you like?
Right, there's two, out of those ones you named, there's two candidates that stand out for me. The first one's Eddie Howe, British manager, young, progressive, plays good football, would seem to fit not really won anything, but then neither did Gareth Southgate before he took over.
Yeah.
So there's Eddie Howe, and then the other one for me is Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah.
Again, his style of football, I think, would go down well with the fans. He's popular. I think Jurgen Klopp's one of those managers that, even though he obviously managed at Liverpool for a length of time, he is quite popular with fans of other clubs as well.
Yeah.
So I think he'd be like the adopted Englishman, wouldn't he?
Yeah. I mean, there's also Lee Carsley has been spoken about as well. I've heard Gary O'Neill from
he's got
Wolves
good credentials.
who plays great football.
Done
I think,
well with the under.
You know what? The thing is about this job, right? What I found when, watching, England play, and, it's all the stuff around it. The stress factor, the press conferences, the scrutiny you come under as a manager managing England. I think Eddie Howe could handle that. Gary O'Neill's still quite a young manager. Would he be able to deal with that stress? Would he be able to deal with the hassle? It would be a big job for him, definitely. I'd say out of them, if I had to pick one, the manager I'd most like to see get the job is Jurgen Klopp for me.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to credentials and resumes, then his one is outstanding.
Jurgen Klopp, Eddie Howe, and Pochettino, probably those three.
Yeah.
One of those three. I mean, does it have to be an English manager?
Not really, no, not at all. Best man for the job. Although, I mean, having said that, I did say that Pochettino could be a harder sell, given the history between Argentina and England. But I don't think that applies to Klopp. And like I said, Klopp's been managing in England for a long time, very popular with fans up and down the country. And I think a lot of Englishmen would be happy to adopt him.
It's whether he'd want the job, though.
What I would say, though, about that job is that I'm just thinking that obviously they've got the World Cup a couple of years away. Whoever takes on the job now, is their expectation going to be that they have to win it?
I think
or have
it will
to get to a final?
I think it's going to be.
Or do we give them a little bit of license to say, well, it'll be their first tournament?
I think there'll be no license. Honestly, the thing is, right, is because of the team that Gareth Southgate has left behind, and let's be real right now, he may be much criticised, but he's set a very high standard.
Yeah,
he's got to 2 Euro finals. He's got to a quarter-final of World Cup. The standard that he's set is high. A semi-final of World Cup as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he's set high standards. So I think whoever's coming in now, the fans are expecting, right, now we want you...
Do you think they've got to win it?
Yes. They want to win. They want to win one of these major competitions right now. Just quickly, a couple of other managers mentioned. Kieran McKenna, who of course has done brilliantly at Ipswich, but would this come too soon for him? Frank Lampard has been mentioned. It's not been a very successful time for him in recent times of being a manager, but he's been mentioned. Michael Carrick, Middlesbrough manager. Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, I've heard Steven Gerrard's name thrown in there as well.
Yep. And Jose Mourinho. Would you have Jose Mourinho? I mean, I think that's very unlikely, the fact he's just taken the job at Fenerbahce, that he'd be up for that. But there's definitely some candidates there. I want to hear from you guys in the comments who you would like to see as the next England manager. Who would you like to see as the next England manager? We're also going to be doing a discussion on this on playback. We're going to be going live with this later on today, so make sure you look out for that. And I'm sure the guys from FCM Podcast, they're going to be doing a live podcast from 5 p.m. today here on DR Sports. And there's only one discussion in town today, and that is Gareth Southgate resigning as England manager. The news has broken. He will no longer be the England manager. He's done a great job. Let's be real. He has done a great job. But as he said now, it's time for a change. Who will be the next manager? Laurie, thank you very much. Thank you to you guys. And once again, please let us know who you would like to see take over.